Thank you to welcome me here. I'm happy to be here. So I will talk about AI for media. What is it, AI for media? We are in the heart of the digital revolution, which is accelerating. We are quite of running after digital revolutions quite years now. We had digital first, mobile first, social first, so now are we in AI first. The problem is this is something we do not really quite know to do in television, just some words about this. It's what is AI today? Today we have what we call narrow AI, so that is not at all the AI, the Terminator kind of AI. It's quite a stupid AI. We are working with machine learning, with deep learning, with quite a little bit robotics, and with NLP, natural language processing. The last one, I think it's also quite stupid yet, because each time when I'm talking to Siri, I find her quite stupid because she does not understand me. So you see, we are really in the childhood of AI, and that's a good thing. But why are we using AI in TV and film production? It's for cost leadership. We already seen it. It's for differentiation. We have to be different from our concurrents, and it's to focus. That's what we will see later on. And AI can be a tool, an assistant, a peer, or even a manager. So you asked me to draw the big picture of what we can do with AI in media, so it's there. But I will detail some of them quite after. So I think you understand that we are quite on the left down there with TV, and not on the right up there for the moment. But why do we need AI today? It is because people want to live experiences. And we are working a lot, we are thinking a lot about the 4 C's. That's good, that works in French and in English. It's all about content, containers, and the containers now there's not only the TV set in the center of a room, it's also your smartphone, and it's also your smart speaker, everything what is smart, in fact. And it's also about context. It's quite different if I'm watching something when I'm stuck in the traffic jam in Paris every morning, or when I'm with my family at home on Sundays. And it's about clients, so they want really personalized experiences. And we are coming from mass media, you know, quite several years ago. We had this kind of carpet bombing. We had done to everyone with the same content, and we are going more and more to this kind of mass personalization we will talk about. And data is the heart of this intelligent machine. So it's no more content is king, it's data is king. And for this, we have to work together, we have to collaborate. This is something really is changing inside our company and inside lots of companies. We have to collaborate not only internally, but we also have to collaborate with data labs, research institutes, startups, and our frenemies. You talked about if most of the AI solutions are in the cloud nowadays, and the cloud is owned by the nasty GAFAs. So we have also to work with them. So we thought about what can we do with AI in media, and we did this mapping. It's about 50 pages of what you can do with AI in media. It's totally free. You can look at it on the internet. It's accessible. So I will show just some of the use cases we found out what we can do with AI. I will not detail out each of them. So AI for content creation. Perhaps you have already seen this. So this is zone out, and it was written by somebody called Benjamin. Benjamin is an artificial intelligence who wrote this short film. And you have another one, which is this one.
Its first birthday. It exceeded our wildest expectation.
And that is something to announce as a film and also written by AI. But I think I do not really want to go to the cinema after this. It's not the thing you normally see. So creativity is perhaps not the thing why we are working with AI in film and TV production. But why we are working with AI is because it's a good assistant. For instance, you have the BBC who worked first on the Edinburgh Festival with cameras controlled by AI. And this is something which allows us to cover much more festivals, for instance, where we cannot send people, but you can use really cameras to do this. Otherwise, we have now this thing. Those are drones. Why I'm showing you the drones? Because nowadays, especially in China, they are able to put the AI on the chip and on the drone. And perhaps someday we can use drone cameras also to film much better images than we have today. For the moment, it's mostly for military, but perhaps someday we can use it also in media. So we have this one too. This is Weebits, which is able to assemble content from the internet, which can take pictures, text, and it's not speech to text. It's in fact text to video, and which can really automatically create videos, which we are using at France TV. And perhaps you have seen this one. Done by machine, which was broadcasted at the BBC. This was
Welcome to an experiment.
AI, which selected really different sequences in order to do a whole program on the BBC. And you have technically, yes, this one too. There are more 8K TV sets, but we do not have 8K content, so AI can also help us with this. What's the most important and the most interesting for us is really to create interactivity with our audience, and that's why AI is a big help. And also to create engagement. This is not on TV, but it's something really interesting our colleagues in Wiley did. It's Waito, it's called A Robot. It's Waito. He works really, he does quite a lot of things. He's a journalist, he's a video editor, and he's a personal assistant. And this allows us really to interact with our audience. That's some of the examples. And another one is BBC, the Inspection Chamber. It's also interactive storytelling. And you have this one, Frankenstein AI, which is interactive storytelling in collaboration. There are really different people who are collaborating on this project together. So AI allows us to tell stories today in a really new way in interaction with those things. And which better interaction than with voice assistants? It's really simple to interact by voice. So voice is a new search also for us. There are really, really lots of things to do with voice. And we really need to develop new indexation for TV, because we are used to index our videos and to search for a video with our on the TV. But tomorrow, people will search perhaps for our programs in a connected car or in an autonomous car, and perhaps they will not ask what is on the TV this evening. They will ask us what is the best film today. So how we can be able to be found in this. For this, we really need to have advanced indexing in these massive volumes of data. And we are working with Newsbridge for this in France TV, who are using computer vision, NLP, machine learning, and neural networks in order to index automatically all our video contents. Because nowadays we have so much content to index that our documentaries cannot just do the work, and they need some help from AI. We also heard about groundbreaking AI projects at France TV, and this is one of the parts of this groundbreaking metadata project, which is automatic subtitling. So AI allows us also to place automatically the subtitles, to do some speech to text, yes, to just translate the speech to the text, but also to place them there where we need to have them in the picture. So AI is really quite a interesting tool for every day. What we also have with AI is new forms of distribution. Just what I told, we need some experiences, and people are more and more used to personalized experiences. You know all Netflix, so we try to do a little bit something like this, also in traditional broadcasters, and Netflix had done this Bandersnatch thing, where you had really, you were autonomous on deciding which kind of story you want to see, and you can have 5 different endings and billions of permutations created by the interactive script. So this is something really important for us to be discovered, but in this, as a media, and now I'm speaking as a public service media, we really have to find the good balance between recommendation, which is made by humans, and between personalization, which is made by algorithms. And this is quite something important for us, because as media, we do not want to add to the filter bubble. We normally should get the people out of the filter bubble and just make room for some healthy differences of opinions. But before this, we also need some money, and AI helps us to work on monetization and prediction. For instance, Scriptbook is one of the companies we worked with, and they analyze scripts, and they really can predict for which public it's good, how many entries we can have in the cinema, and it's really quite amazing what they're able to do. And we are doing this at this moment. It's a test we are just doing. So I just let you see some images. So this is personalized advertising we are working on, and it works quite good, because we can really use AI in order to give to everybody something which corresponds to his ideas and this one we are also doing. We also have done some tests about emotion tracking. As you know, perhaps AI is also able to detect emotions, and we can distribute content corresponding to your emotion. So you can really target very precisely your content distribution and really go to extreme personalization. And all this, you can do it in blurred realities. We talked about it at the beginning of this day. Fake news, what you see on TV is all lies. That's really a problem we are confronted to. Chinese just did this one, you see, so this is a robot controlled by artificial intelligence who is presenting the news. So perhaps you will tell me in China if this is a robot or a real human. There's no difference in any case. He cannot tell what he wanted to do, but this is really, we are now really able to, sorry, for the other way around, able to copy reality in quite an amazing and scaring way. Perhaps you have seen this too. There's a mobile app called Zao, which is able to do deepfakes. So everybody at home can do its own deepfake. So this is really something we are confronted to today. Those mixed reality, blurred realities, there are no real reality, and this makes that we are arriving there, which is real news. One French and 10 think that the Earth might be flat today. So it's the end of facts, it's the beginning of opinions. Thank you, Mark Zuckerberg. It's your fault. Before that, people weren't like this. So what we have to do as media, really, is think about ethics. When we are using AI, in every AI product and every AI project we are doing, we really have to think about this. Because today we have no tool, we have no process, there's no regulation really about using AI in every industry. So this is something we are really responsible for. And we need rules and regulations, perhaps a little bit, at least a little bit, which will also differentiate Europe from the use of AI in the United States and the use of AI in China. You heard about what they are doing with AI in China, I suppose so. And what is really important too is to be conscious about that there are bias in AI. It exists, and this is something also we need to have in mind. And also, who owns the data? Where is the data? You talked about clouds. The clouds are not in Europe. And most of the time they are in the United States, and they can do what they want with what we are putting on the cloud. So this is really something we are also have to work on. We are working on a European cloud, but it's in the European way, so they are discussing about it for several years now. Perhaps someday we will have the European cloud, but for the moment it's not it. So there really is something we have to balance between what AI is able to do and between not only public service value, but perhaps just value, which is diversity, discoverability, shared experience, and perhaps community, and whereas AI does not put us this way. So the most important in all of this, in all this project, I think, is really to keep in mind that it's not the algorithm on its own, it's not AI on its own, it's really AI in combination with humans. So any time you have to think about this, you just do not do some automation without human control. There always is a human in the loop. So just some takeaways. So it means efficiency, it's reliable, sometimes responsiveness, but we are only at the beginning, and it means filter bubbles, fake news and bias, and it is really important to have some ethical considerations in using AI and to have some humans in the loop all the day. So, thank you.
That's great. Come sit with me.
Okay.
Well, that was really interesting. You want to sit over there?
No,
Here, sit
sorry.
there. Sit there. So then we can sit together. I want to sit together. So that was really interesting, Katie, because it was kind of a rapid look
Yeah.
at the different texts that you're looking at, how they're starting to influence things. You made a couple of very interesting comments, like, for instance, you said, with creativity, well, AI, it doesn't really quite work. The scripts that the script book is writing aren't necessarily the most creative scripts, right? And yet you said, but on the production side, there are some things that we can do. So when you look at sort of because you're looking at a lot of different things in your work, where do you think the most traction is happening? In other words, if you're presenting to your bosses at France Télévisions, which bit are they the most interested in? Is it the news bit to sort of help with the filter bubble? Is it the production bit to help with maybe cutting costs? Where's the interest from the organizational?
I think there really were the both of them. It's for information. It's really interesting because it liberates journalists from repetitive tasks. In fact, all those articles they had written about football matches or financial results or all those kind of things. This is really something we can automate, and if we can automate this side, we can use journalists for more intelligent tasks, such as investigation, interpretation, all those kind of things that AI is not able to do.
Yeah,
so
because for instance, I know that Reuters, for example, actually writes sports stories using AI. I mean, I think a lot of organizations are working towards that. I mean, when I started in journalism a long time ago, as a starter, as a beginning journalist, you had to write what we call the nibs, the news and briefs, or those kind of stories, which weren't really that hard. We don't need to do that now. You can, as you say, do the AI. Of course, the question is, then you have those Chinese, the automated digital virtual anchors. Wow, that's a little scary. I mean, is it scary? I mean, for me, I think it's scary because I think they're putting me out of a job. But but it's also, they're not human, so they don't have any filter. It's not like they're actually making decisions based on a human filter. They're computers.
No, that's why it's working in China, because they cannot make decisions in China in any way. It will never arrive in Europe. I think it will never arrive here, because just what humans are doing is they think about things, they take into a context, and there really are things AI will never be able to do.
I know the other thing I really liked, and I'm going to open it up to you all in a minute because I hope you have some questions, but the discoverability bit, I mean, that is a huge issue now in media. We have all this content, we call it the tsunami of content, all this stuff coming at us. How is anyone going to find anything? I mean, and we're used to, for example, going on our Netflix and says, "Hi, Katie, you're back. Do you want to keep watching what you're watching before? Oh, let me recommend this stuff that you may like because it's like all the stuff you just watched." But this discoverability bit, is it going to get more, what's the word I want? Nuanced, more. It seems a little bit like a hammer now. It doesn't really work perfectly.
It does not work perfectly. I think it's quite a hammer, and it will not arrange because there are more and more platforms, and even we are adding platforms because we will add Salto, we will add in Britain, we will add BritBox, and so there are more and more platforms, and those platforms are not communicating.
Right.
And I think what is really, really important is the user experience, and just to think about what the people want to have. I think they just want to have their smartphone and one content proposed on their smartphone, and not to search on 5 different platforms. I think it's not arranging for the moment.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we're looking at the launch of even more subscription VOD platforms, like Salto is the one that's coming in France. BritBox is coming in the UK. We've just had Disney Plus launch and get 10 million subscriptions on day one, they say. I mean, we'll have more. It just seems we're going to be overwhelmed with how to do this. I mean, do you think that's where the emphasis should be put, and sort of on the discoverability bit, maybe?
Yes, and it's perhaps also on partnerships with our concurrents and on partnerships with the tech giants. We have to do this. We have no choice, I think.
Right. So I'm going to open up to you all. Let me ask. Let me open up to you because I have another question, but I'm going to stop talking. Are there questions from the audience for Katie about this? I mean, she brought up a lot of interesting things about news, about discoverability, monetization. Does anyone have a question?
I have a question about how you...
Could you bring the mic? There's a mic coming. He's running very fast. There we go. Thank you.
Thank you. I had a question about creating fake news. Yes, you told
Fake
it
news?
or you showed it. Isn't it possible to make a hash from a news or a film and put it in a blockchain so that you check, is it original or is it manipulated?
That's interesting. We haven't mentioned blockchain yet, so
yes.
Talk about that.
It's a really good idea because we are working on this.
Oh, you are? Okay. See, you were ahead of them. I love it.
We had the same idea. Yes, we have the idea to label real contents because you cannot detect fakes because there are new fakes every day. It's like with fake money. You cannot run after the fakes, but what you can do is, yes, you can label the right news, the good news.
Right.
And we are working on this kind of project. It's quite secret, no? But
It's quite secret.
we are working on it, and it's perhaps with blockchain.
It's a good idea because, as you all know, blockchain is sort of this ledger system where you can sort of automatically know when a transaction's made or when a contract's made or indeed when something is
It's
fake.
modified. Yeah.
Right, it's modified, and so you know that immediately. So
Yeah.
if you could put those two technologies together, that might help solve at least some of the fake news problem.
That's right.
Good question. All right, another question?
Hi. You were talking about ethics, and I would really want to know what do you think are the limits for the ethics, and is there anything considered to prevent these ethics, not changing during time? Because, like, I don't know, human history tells us, like, when you can go beyond a little bit and be a little bit, and maybe ethics will disappear eventually.
So, are you saying, predicting, will there be an end of ethics because we really can't control it anymore?
Maybe I would like to understand, like, what are the limits now?
What are the limits now? Okay.
And how do you think this will change during time?
Okay. So how are ethics going to stand up in the face of AI?
I think we are just at the beginning of ethics because we are just working on ethic rules for trustworthy AI in Europe. And actually, France TV is working with a high-level group on AI for the European Union on some kind of rules or some kind of checklist for ethics in every AI project and product. And this is something we are working about. We are talking a lot about because we are in Europe, so we are talking a lot. We are not yet doing it, but it's something we have in mind, and I think it's really the beginning of ethics. It's not the end of ethics.
Do you think ethics is going to become a little bit where it's like a T and C's, you choose what ethical framework you want? I mean, who's going to decide what's ethical?
I think there should be just a base ethic guidelines everybody has to follow in a project, in an AI project. As I told, some simple checklist before takeoff with AI. And this is really something we are working on.
Do you have an idea about what would be one of the basic checkpoints? I mean, transparency, maybe?
Yes, transparency, explainability.
Explainability, that makes sense. Yeah.
Security.
Security,
data security. Diversity, all those kind of things. Because this is really something which can differentiate us from just the United States and China, who are far away on AI already. We are quite after them, but it's really some values we can add to AI they do not use in their AI project. So they are much faster than us, but perhaps we are arriving a bit later, but better.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of something that we're hearing a lot about now is, in a way, if Europe doesn't stand up and get involved in technology and lead the charge and actually create some of this stuff, and as you say, create standards about, for instance, AI, we're going to be at the mercy of or using technology that we are importing from the US or from China or from wherever it is, that maybe isn't the same kind of ethical or cultural, doesn't have the same kind of background that we might want to have in Europe. It's a difficult one because in a way, you sort of say, well, it's technology. But it isn't just technology anymore.
No, because it's influencing your life, so it's not just tech.
It's true. Another question. This is fascinating conversation. Yes? Yes, there's one there. Oh, there's one there. Okay, so Mark, you have to wait. There's one up there. Peter's doing a great job running around. He's going to not have to get on the Fitbit this afternoon. Yeah, there we go.
Thank you. Great presentation. Thank you very much. One question. You very quickly were insinuating that AI could forecast success of upcoming films. If you look at the history of movie success research, it's basically a history of failure because it doesn't work. You all know the quote by William Goldman, nobody knows anything. So, but maybe some know something. So how can AI now do better than all the researchers in the last 5 or 6 decades?
Ooh, I can even answer that one. But please, this is a great question. I love this question. Go ahead.
If you want to answer.
No. I said it's just I heard a presentation by one of these people, and it's really kind of it's like what William Golding said. No one knows anything. There's so much AI now. They know a lot more, a lot faster.
Yeah.
But you
yes, because they're really big data, and they really cross data from so many sources. Because what you talked about was several years ago when it was also only statistics, and now there are so many informations we can cross and build together, and they are really quite. I passed quite quickly on this slide, but I had the figures, and it was really impressive what we are just able to do today with this.
My memories. Remember focus groups when they'd bring an audience in and they'd show them the first cut of a film, and they get a reaction. Yeah. And after the people would come out of the focus group and they'd either, write something down or be interviewed. And they would then change the ending or change the character or drop the dog or whatever it was that didn't work or they thought they could do better. And what's interesting about this is it's really just scaling that, right? It's scaling the focus group to a much bigger
everybody,
set. A much bigger set, yeah. No, it's amazing, actually, some of the research on that. I think what's the company? Is it Script?
It's Scriptbook.
Scriptbook does that? So Scriptbook is the thing to look up. I think that's actually a Belgian company, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's a European company, Scriptbook. Mark, you had a question?
Yeah, I wanted to actually go back to that previous conversation before the last question about our ability to actually think and act around ethics. You know the old quote about for evil to triumph, it only requires that good people do nothing. It's like for bad AI to triumph, it only requires for good people to spend too long just talking about bad AI. I wonder whether if we're actually serious about trying to impose any kind of controls on the way that technology develops, people who care about this actually have to evolve far better, swifter processes to analyze and react. Because the public sector is actually doing a great job at the moment of framing the debate, but a really bad job of actually intervening in the debate. What do you think about that?
No, I'd agree. So you have to react faster and you have to intervene. What do you think? How do you think we're doing so far?
We intervene because we are in the group thinking about it, and we are using those standards already. But yes, we cannot impose them to all the industries, perhaps. That's right. But we can be perhaps some kind of example for others to be transparent about and to explain how we are working with AI. This is also something we have to do on public service. We really need to explain what is AI, what we can do with it, what are its limits, how it can interact with people, and how it can perhaps transform society. This is perhaps also our responsibility to do this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, remember the opening keynote this morning? She was talking about she never thought she would see the day when Facebook would actually start to pivot to private, making more private the data. I mean, I remember interviewing Mark Zuckerberg, back in the beginning when he was even younger than he is now. And he said to us, assembled journalists in Europe, he said, well, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to have all of your information on Facebook. What's the problem with that? It'll be great. You'll know everything about everybody, much more interconnectedness. We'll all know stuff. It'll be fantastic. It'll be much, and he was very enthusiastic about it. And of course, those of us who were a little bit older than he was, I think he was 23 or something at the time, sort of said, well, Mark, when you get a family and you want to, you start having children and maybe want to have a little privacy and maybe you do something you don't really want everybody to know about. I mean, things were going to change for you, right? And so it's interesting how, they have a business reason now to start thinking about pivoting, right? In a sense, we need to make that work better. And we need to, tell them to keep going in that direction. And we do that through regulation. We do that, I think, through, how we work with companies like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a difficult, as you say, you don't want to impose things. But on the other hand, if we wait too long, as Mark says.
Yes, we are really interconnected with them now on quite a lot of issues. And they are also sponsoring information projects with Google Fonts and they're really, it's quite an insane interconnection and dependence.
Quite insane. Do you feel like they're starting to listen differently now? Or maybe not yet?
They're much more powerful than us, but perhaps if we combine us with governments, perhaps we can do something.
Yeah, something to tame the fangs, as we say. Yeah. Another question?
Hello, I'm Holger Doniden from Lexatexa. We are running a predictive analytics AI company in different verticals, and I was looking for in the media sector, in the media vertical, what is the low-hanging fruit where we can set up a use case, and what are the purpose where you have the most business benefit and the most revenue we can make in this field.
Okay, I love that one. Boy, he wants to write the next business plan. So what's the good use case? Where are we going to get the most revenue? So it's kind of like my question, what is France Télévisions putting its emphasis on? What do you think is the best use case, and where can somebody actually make some return on investment sort of quickly, if you see what I mean?
I think the biggest investment is always in films. In
films?
Cinema, yes. Because all the rest of the content information we cannot sell it, so it's in films. It stays in films. Yes.
So in other words, putting an AI use case around producing a film or marketing a film, or the whole thing.
Even writing, conceiving a film from the beginning till the end, perhaps.
So it gets back to that sort of the predictive stuff and using AI to predict what might work or what might not work with audiences.
Yeah.
How the storyline.
And perhaps really doing some personalized films, so have different films for different audiences.
Okay. It's a little bit like Bandersnatch. How many people saw Bandersnatch, the Netflix? Okay. So that one was interesting because there was an interactive element, correct? And you could sort of choose which ending you wanted. How many of you who watched it actually went through and chose different endings just to see what happened? Yeah. So that was kind of cool, right? I mean, it was interesting. I don't know how much that's going to take off, though, because I know in my mind, in a way, I really want the story to be told to me.
Yeah, in a passive way, yes. But perhaps people like gambling too. Perhaps there are people who
like gambling. I love it.
Interact with.
Okay. Another question? No? Yes? Nothing else? All right. We've got about 5 minutes. If you have another question, I have one more. If you don't. Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, I have a couple of questions. We could talk about it. I thought the one about blockchain was cool. I've written that down. So we talked about discoverability. We talked a little bit about cost savings. One thing I wanted to ask you about was about skills.
Yeah.
As you look at what you're doing at France Télévisions, there are a lot of people in this audience who are either in school or are thinking about having to reskill. What kind of skills do you think you need to sort of understand the AI revolution and some of the projects that you're doing? I mean, what kind of skills are you looking for?
What we really need are data scientists. So if you are looking for studies, so choose data scientists.
Choose data science, okay.
Computer science, all those kind of stuff. But it's not sufficient for AI teams. I think the really important in AI teams is to mix different cultures, mix different professions, different backgrounds, different cultures, languages. Also, I love mixed teams. So I think we really produce most interesting things with mixed teams. It's not only scientists, it's not only producers, it's not only editorial people, but we really have to mix all of them in teams. But it's not simple. We try to do this, but it's not simple to break the silos in our big, huge company.
Yeah, it's funny how the innovation lab tends to sort of be over here, and then there's other things over here, and you're trying to get in and say, please work on this, use this, and it's harder. As you say, sometimes news is a little more adaptive because I think, oh, that might be a way we can use that. As you say, stop doing things that are, low-hanging fruit, things that don't need a lot of intelligence to be done.
But I think journalists are the less able to change.
Really? Okay. That's good. I put me in my place. Right. All right. Any last question for Kati? No? Great. I thought this was fascinating. I mean, this is a hugely important area for all of us to be thinking about. As the keynote presenter this morning said, not only do we need to ask the right questions, we need to come up with better answers. Yeah. And I think you have talked about that. How do we think about AI from the European perspective, from the French perspective, but also from the European perspective? How do we make sure that we don't lose our cultural sovereignty? How do we make sure that we don't lose whatever it is that AI is going to do for us so that someone else is writing the code and it's not us that's writing the code? Because as you say, putting human and artificial intelligence together is probably the best result.
The only solution, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Could you please join me in thanking Kati Bremme?
Thank you.